Well, we're out here in beautiful, windy Minnesota. We're out in one of our corn FFT fields. Currently, we just did a stand count here. This field was planted May 10th at 36,000. After our stand counts here, we did a couple throughout the field. We're going to go with the final stand count of 32,800. We just dug up this little guy right here. Everything's looking good. Now after we do this, we're going to go back and go to the FFT tool, put in our initial field parameters. We're going to add in our starter application, a 1034.0, and make any of those initial changes to the model and get everything on the right track for a great year. So today we're going to take a look at the FFT tool, and we're working with a cornfield, one of my fields back home, and currently you can see that it's predicting a yield of 138 bushels per acre. Now we're going to go in and do some of these in-season adjustments now that we already have the crop in the ground. So to start this off, we're going to go and look at the field parameters tab. You can see we have sand, clay, and silt percentages. These are imported right in. You can see the soil type right there. Actually, from our soil tests, we have actually a little lower pH, and the organic matter is not 8%, it is actually 5%, so we're going to go ahead and change that. Last fall's soil water levels were actually normal, not very wet, and our K levels from our soil test was actually 140 parts per million, so we're going to go ahead and change that. It was corn last year, but the previous yield is actually 220 bushels per acre. The harvest date is right, and we did incorporate last year's residue, so we're going to go ahead and add that application. And down here you can see that we are working with decal 4972. From our in-season check, we do know that the planting depth is correct there at 2 inches, but the population that was seeded was actually 36,000, so we're going to go ahead and adjust. And the planting date is currently correct as well at May 10th. We're going to hit save and simulate. Now you can see how the predicted yield up here jumped to 150. Our max as well went up to 252 with a gap of 102. So now we're going to go in and actually add our starter fertilizer application. You can see we already added in our upfront spread, but we're going to go ahead and add our liquid. So I'm going to go to this add tab and switch this to 1034.0. Right there.
You can see at this point too that our stress in nitrogen is predicting in 4 days, and we're going to be stressed in potassium in 52 days. So we'll see how adding in this starter fertilizer application may affect those.
And you can see here it wants to add the fertilizer date as yesterday. Well, we're putting down starter fertilizer, so it's going to be the same as our planting date, which was May 10th. So now we have in the right credentials, we're going to go and hit and save and simulate again. You can see that predicted yield jumped another 2 bushel there. So now we have this data in here, we're going to want to go in and
we can take a look at our stress to nitrogen. It's still predicting that we're going to be stressed in 4 days. So I'm sure that starter fertilizer application helped us along, but we definitely want to be looking at checking that crop and monitoring it in this next few days to double check when we're going to be stressed in nitrogen, and possibly think about doing a early in-season side dress application.
So now we're going to go in and to our adjustments tab. So we were out there in the field, and actually we were at 32,800, so we're going to adjust the final stand count and simulate. And you can see it didn't really change anything in there, but we do have a growth stage adjustment. It thinks that it's going to be emerging here tomorrow, but obviously since we were out doing stand counts on Sunday there, we know that it emerged earlier. Now when we hit save and simulate again, you can see how that changed our numbers up here in the top right hand part of the screen.
So each of these in-season adjustments that we can make, especially a growth stage adjustment here as we go throughout the season and take tissue samples, are definitely going to affect the model and what's predicting for yield, but also affect how it's modeling our nitrogen and potassium status, and how that crop is growing actually in the field, and the GDUs to maturity.
So you can see from the desktop there why it's important to enter in accurate information into the model. The more accurate data you put in, the more accurate data you're going to get out of it. So their next step for this field is that we're going to take our tissue sample at V5. We're going to use our New Solutions app and do that. stay tuned for another Ag Tech and 2 on how to take that tissue sample. And we'll continue to add in any water, or in this case, this is a dryland field, any nutrient applications we have in season for this field to make sure we're running accurately all season. So stay tuned for next time.